Alright, so make sure that you have it on mental ray and the quality of production. I noticed mine was at my software for a little bit after I showed you the point light, so make sure we go back that way in case we have ray tracing on. So just know that this light right here does have some shadow capabilities. They're just a little different. So if I go like this and turn on ray tracing shadows, now I should get a better shadow. That last video I didn't have the ray tracing on, and that's why the shadows didn't look all that impressive. Very expensive light with shadows. It's just really expensive. And the closer you get to it, the brighter it is. So if I have this drop off to about right there, you can see that's a much softer shadow, much softer light. Alright, so a very interesting light. I use it all the time, but again, it's a very expensive light to render, so it takes a while. Okay, so volume light. You know what? I love this light. It's got a lot of properties to it. And let me show you one of the properties I use it all the time for. So this has a very, very small drop off. It can be scaled. Okay. It's a very soft light. What's nice about it is I have this thing. Let me look for it. Yeah, color range. So here I have this nice color range, and I can set this to any color. Let's pretend, for instance, I set the selected color to a dark red. Okay. And then I set this one to a white or a yellow. Okay. Well, now I get this nice eerie looking soft fire look to it. Okay, so you can get some really nice atmospheric looks with this thing. So if you want to add some color to your scene, I add a volume light in the area, maybe a point light to back it up, and then the point light would be something like 0.2. Okay, just to fill in the scene with some other light. So real soft color. Okay, and with the volumetric light, the more blown out this color is, so the more saturated it is, that's where you're starting to get that. So if I take and maybe turn the saturation down a little bit on the light, I can also go a little bit to the gray. And this one, maybe a little bit to the gray. You're going to get a whole new softer look to it. Okay, so that's how you soften the light up a little bit. Take the saturation out of it. And I got smooth, spline. Spline's a little bit, it's got even more of a drop off to it because the spline curve is mathematical. Okay, now I can go inward and outward. So in other words, right now it's on outward. So if I go inward, and let me just rank this up just a little bit, maybe a 2 here. You can see now it lights not everything on the inside, but it's casting light from the outside. And you can see these little arrows. The arrow's pointing in, just like that. Outward, you don't see any. Down axes. Okay. So now anything below this will get the light. Very nice light. Lots and lots of stuff you can do with this light. If you want ugliness, emit ambient, but we'll get into ambient here in a little bit. Light effects, the light fog works pretty well. And the shadow capabilities are a bit skeptical, but they do work. The main thing is, if you're emanating from a very soft light, where do those shadows come from? If it's outward, it's going to be from the center. Okay, and if you go inward, it's going to be a little bit different. See? So anything on the outside of the globe is getting it. There we go. I always use outward just because it's a little easier to control. All right, the last light I'm going to cover really quick, the ambient light is just that. It is very ambient. It's very, very blown out. Ambient light sources are sources like from the sun. So you can see everything is lit. There's no really finite detail. There's no really harsh shadows because everything is lit equally. Great light for outside. Terrible light for inside. Shadows. Let's talk about shadows with this thing. Shadows have a horrible time with ambient light. They are very cut off. They are very exact. So anytime I get that light source just over there, let's move it just a little bit. You can see what happens with the shadow. It stair steps. Okay. Anytime I adjust the rays, it does look a little bit better, but anytime it runs into a bump map, it's going to have a hard time with the ambient light. So that's the rule of thumb. If you're using a bump map, I would stay away from casting shadows with the ambient light source. I would back it up using one of these. So the ambient light is pointing down, so therefore I would point this down. And we'll use ray tracing shadows. And you can see that's much better. So you're getting the shadow from the ambient light source, and it looks like it's almost coming from the sun. So usually when I use an ambient, I automatically assume I'm going to use a point or a directional light along with it. Okay. All right, now that we've covered all the lights, let's look at different type of rendering capabilities with these lights.